All right, so we're here with Tim Lightyear. What is
What's going
going
on, dude?
on? Yeah, we finally worked through the technical difficulties, and we are here.
Yeah, that's how it
So,
works.
yeah, this is either going to be a good question or the dumbest question I'll ask. So, your real name is Tim Allen, right?
That's correct.
Does Lightyear have to deal with like Buzz Lightyear, or is
Yeah,
it
so
okay?
so yeah, so Tim Allen is the voice of Buzz Lightyear. And so the originally it was just I'm gonna make a funny Instagram handle, and so it was like, all right, well, what's funny? So Tim Lightyear was funny, and then I tried to come up with a band name. I tried to figure out a bunch of different stuff, and then it was just like, all right, well, I can't come up with anything better, so I'm just gonna go with that.
That works.
Yeah.
Why no spaces?
Um, well, his thing is two words. Buzz Lightyear is two. It's like a first name, last name thing. Um, I don't know, man. I just felt like it was easier. It's easier for me to type. It's easier for me to. I don't know. I mean, most people get it wrong, anyways. Like on marquees and show posters and all sorts of stuff, people do a space, and it's just not worth my time to. That doesn't sound right. It's more of a headache to correct them or whatever. So
Yeah,
I just, but I mean, it's just easy. I mean, how I, it's funny that you mentioned this because I was thinking about it the other day. How I originally intended it was just all lowercase, all one thing, Tim Lightyear. But, it shows up however it shows up wherever. So,
it's funny.
so yeah.
So yeah, like the first time we talked, like when I first Googled you, I was like, oh my God, because I got like a quick background of who you were and I just didn't realize that you've been doing this like forever.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to somebody else the other day, and it was basically just like I would. Oh, I was explaining that I've gone to six. It might have been you when we were talking the other day, but I've gone to six different community colleges, and someone was like, "Why?" And it was like, "Well, I would go to community college, and then I would find some music opportunity, and so I would go with that until that ran out, and then go back to community college, and then just try and eventually I just was like, all right, college is not the thing for me. I'm just supposed to be doing this music thing, and then I've stuck with it ever since I made that decision. But yeah, man, I mean, I've been doing the band thing. I mean, like I was doing garage bands and stuff like in high school and middle school and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I've been in bands. I would say in like legitimate bands, like actually trying to do stuff or recording or whatever since I was about 18.
Nice.
So, without giving my age away, a long time.
Yeah. And now, wow, like, Tim Lightyear is the trio, the band, and now production too as well, right? Like recording studio.
Yeah, so um, I actually built a recording studio. I started in like October. I bought a house and there was a like a detached garage situation. And so I'm converting it. That's where I am right now. I'm converting it into a studio, but not like, and this is no hate to anyone, but it's not like, oh, I got a studio at my house. It's not like that. It's like a legitimate recording studio, with a window here. I'll just, it's under construction still, but
Nice.
it's like a real studio type deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I've been working on that since October, and I mean, same type of deal. I've been making recordings since I was in middle school, high school, but I started producing fairly seriously when I was probably like 21, and then moved back to Dallas in 2019. And the house I lived at before, I built a little studio there and started like really making records there. Um, so yeah, that's been the thing for the last 5 or so years, like really trying to make that a thing.
Yeah. Is that what you want more than like I understand like is the band more of like a passion project for a bunch of guys that love playing music not as strenuous and as frequent as being on the road all the time
Um, I
or
mean,
having?
I think it just depends, man. Like, I think that it feels that way sometimes just because that's where we're at. But I mean, if someone was like, "Hey, we're gonna put you on the road for 200 dates a year," like, okay, cool. Like, someone will use the studio, I'm sure. If it's not me, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's studio enough to do the thing. So I mean, I think it just right now what it feels like is the studio is kind of my day job, and I'm trying to make my live project and my solo project as regular of a thing. I mean, I'm gigging as many days a month as I can, but it's the same thing that I've seen everybody struggle with for the last however long I've been doing this. It's tough to book shows. It's tough to stay busy. It's tough to afford to tour, even if it's just regionally in Texas. It's still tough. So I think that's not a short, concise answer, but I think that if I could do it more, I would do it more. But it's just what's reasonable right now.
yeah. Now,
So
as a musician and as a producer, was it easier to write the album or record it, or did you do it all at the same time?
sorry, I'm trying to get this
Sorry.
figured out here. Sorry, dude. Okay, there we go. Easier to write or easier to record or do it at the same time? Well, some of it we wrote like in the process of recording. Um, Probably like one or two songs were like halfway there, but not quite there type deal. I think writing it was harder for me because I didn't produce my own stuff. So the recording process was fun like always, and honestly it was kind of refreshing because I got to actually be the artist rather than being on the other side of the glass like I normally am. Drew Herrickle, he's the one who produced it. He it was I it was really good because he let me go into the producer world when I wanted to or needed to, but he was really good about knowing when to be like, "No, dude, we're just going to do it this way."
Yeah,
So that was good. I think writing it was harder. I think it was one of those things where I used to write songs all the time when I was younger, and then at a certain point, I became the side guy because people were like, "Oh, you can play guitar, so like come play guitar in the band." So I think for a long time I was the side guy, and I kind of lost my. It's not like I wasn't still writing stuff, but I just wasn't super confident in what I was writing because I was watching all these other people front bands, and I was like, "Well, I guess I'm just the side guy now." So I think it took me a long time to write the album uh, for that reason, and also several other reasons. Because I was the side guy in other people's bands, I didn't have time, or I didn't devote time to writing like I had before. Um, but yeah, I don't know, man. I think writing songs is hard.
yeah,
So I think that was the hard part for me, and it's still hard to write great songs. I think for me, I mean, I'm in the process of trying to write my next record right now, and it's a battle, you know. Um, but it's a battle I really enjoy, and it's super rewarding once you get on the other side of it. So yeah, I mean, short answer, it's definitely harder to write than to record.
yeah. Now, when you have an artist come in and they want to record with you, and like you would ask them, like, what's your sound? Like, how do you like get that out of a person of like what they want their sound to be? Because that's a huge part of recording, and like,
Yeah,
how do you like just ask and get that through to really give them the product they're looking for? Because to me, I've never had to deal with that. I just kind of was like, oh, I like that. That's cool.
yeah,
Let's sound like that.
sure. It's great. That's a great question, and I think it's different for everyone. Um, I also think it varies song to song a lot of the time, right? Like I at least in the world of production that I kind of have found myself in, I'm not the guy you call for this specific thing or that specific thing. Like if somebody called me and they said, "Hey, I really want to make like a 90s country record," I would do it, but I would be calling a lot of people to come who are those types of players, right? Like I don't really know Mike Tuck, but I would call him. I would figure out how to call Mike Tuck and be like, "Come play guitar." Or Dave Scher in Austin. Like I would call those dudes and be like, "I'm not this guitar player. Come play on this." Um, I think to answer the question though, I think it's the genre thing is tough because I think most people that I work with, at least, they're like, "Well, I don't want to sound like this one thing or that one thing," and so I think more often the question I'm asking is like, how do you want the instrument to sound? Like not what genre, like what's the vibe for the recording, right? So like, do you want big drums? Do you want small drums? Do you want, you know, do you want no drums? Do you want, you know what I mean? Like, I think those kinds of questions help me find where we're going more than like, what artist do you want to sound like? Like a buddy of mine was talking about how he went into the studio and he used Jason Isbell Southeastern as a reference. Well, those recordings aren't the best recordings in the world, right? I'm not saying they sound bad, but the songs are really good. And what I think at least what he got confused on was, I want to sound like these songs, not I want to sound like these recordings, right? So I think it's one of those like, let's talk about how you want the drums to sound. Let's talk about how you want the guitars to sound. Let's talk about how you want your vocals to sound. And then let's figure out how to make all those things marry up together. And obviously, if we land on some super easy reference like, oh man, we really need to land in this like 70s Bill Withers thing, then great, if that's the conversation. But I try not to have mainly because I don't want us to get pigeonholed into like, oh, well, this just sounds exactly like that reference. It's like, well, I don't want to get pigeonholed into that thing. I want to explore, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers the question well or not.
Yeah. Did Drew have a vision of what he wanted for your record? Was there a conversation about that? Because
man, it's been long enough now. If there was, I don't know. I think that the conversation happened same kind of deal. I think the conversation happened song to song. You know, it was like, okay, cool. Well, like there's one example I'll provide is there's a song on the record called Falling Again. And the rest of the record is also very different. Like there's one song that was like recorded pretty much entirely live. And there's another song like we set up like a bunch of room mics and recorded everything live there as well. And then there's other stuff that's like there's tons of overdubs and like it has a specific kind of feel or whatever. But then with Falling Again, Drew was like, I think this song needs to have like this kind of Casey Musgraves almost kind of vibe. So like same type of deal. I think that there was, and I think a lot of that is because me and Drew work together all the time on projects. So like we kind of take that same approach, you know. But I think I think that it was the same kind of deal with him, and I think that's his approach as well, which is why I think we get along so well.
yeah, he's a very easy guy to get along with.
Yeah, totally.
He calls himself the OG of this podcast because he was the first one to do it.
That's what he said. I told him I was going to be on, and he was like, "Dude, I was the first person on that thing." He was like, "I love those guys." It was like, cool.
That's what he said. Yeah. They were like, I just walked into it wasn't like the artist tent. It was like the sponsorship tent, and people were like, "How do you know Drew Herrickle?" I was like, and he was like, I'm the OG.
That sounds like Drew.
Yeah, thank God. He was the only person I knew. And I'm like, man, you got to introduce me before I leave you.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. He put a comment the other day. He's like, "Do you not like anything I'm on?" I'm like, first off, you always just have to assume Drew's on everything because he is on
Yeah,
everything, but
I know.
I never know. But yeah,
Yeah, he is on everything.
and you also
It's
do you also do like a lot of session stuff too?
uh not as much as Drew. Drew, I mean, but here's the thing is like Drew's the guy. Like if somebody is like, man, we really need blah blah blah, it's like call Drew, or like if you don't know if Drew isn't the guy, he knows the guy. You know what I mean? So it's I don't know, like I do session stuff way less than Drew. I like doing session stuff. I always I'll say this about session stuff is I always feel bad, and it's something that I'm working on. But every time I get called to do session work, I go into it and I'm like, all right, I'm not the fucking producer. Like, I just need to shut up. I just need to play guitar. Like, I need to don't make any suggestions. Like, just be the guy that just is like, whatever you need, I got you. But don't say anything stupid. I always give myself that pep talk. And then without fail, every time what do you guys think about? I don't know, man. Like, what if we tried? You know what I mean? Like, it always peeks its head out. So I always feel guilty about that. Whether it ends up being a good idea or not, I always feel guilty about that. But I do like being on sessions because there is less pressure, right? Like even though in the back of my mind I'm thinking, oh, that's cool, like or well, what if we tried this or whatever? Like it is cool that the buck of the thing is not on me, you know.
Yeah.
I just gotta play and that's it. So that's nice. Um, but yeah, I don't do nearly as much as Drew.
So, how do you manage your time? If you know, as a guitar player, you got to play every day. It's weird how if you miss 2 days, your hands will hurt. You got to restretch your hands, and then like do you have like a method of just trying not to get overworked in one area?
Uh, the short answer is very poorly. I manage my time very poorly. Um, that's another thing that I'm working on. I I am the type of person who will put in like 4 16-hour days and then sleep for like 24. Not as much anymore because I have kids, but at least like sleep for like like wake up, take my kids to school, and then come home and like take a 3 hour nap and like not really get very much done on that fifth day, you know. Um, but I'm trying to be better about okay, I take my kids to school and then I come home and I devote X number of hours and then I actually take a break and like eat something and then work for however many more hours and then go pick up my kid and then come home and like try and have some family time and then put my kids to bed and then devote maybe like one or two more hours after that to work and then like call it, you know. But I think in terms of like playing guitar every day, like it's nice because I come out to work and there's 12 guitars sitting here. So it's easy to just be like, okay, cool. I'm like stuck editing. I don't know what the answer is. Cool. I'm going to take five and just like noodle around on guitar or whatever, you know? Um, the days that it's harder to play guitar are days when I'm actually doing like some sort of construction thing on the studio. Like today I was staining the doors to my studio. So like I took my kid to school, came back and like started ripping the doors off and taking them to the shop. And like I got home probably like 10 minutes before we were supposed to start, you know? So like I'll probably try and play some guitar tonight, but I don't know, man. It's different every day. That's the hard
Yeah.
part is there's no real routines in this industry unless you're in super niche down and you're like, I'm a mastering guy, so I wake up every day and I master and that's what I do. Which I think is great, but I think I'm too ADD to just be a niche down one stop shop type dude, you know?
Yeah.
So
Speaking of your guitar playing, And one of the things I was so excited to talk to you about is when I did Google you and I found out, like, my first introduction to like Shane Smith and the Saints was Hail Mary. And that sound, I was like, oh my God. And like I thought it was like a synth pad, like all those soundscapes. And then I saw him live and I talked to Sunshine and I was like, it's the guitar. Like I always played like heavier stuff and I never really and like I was watching you on YouTube and your guitar sounds so huge and has that soundscape, but it's still so focused.
That's cool.
Like how do you like on not specifically that album, but like how like I love soundscape. I love that whole just that whole big like ambient, just big spectrum.
Yeah, sure.
And like I never like I said I see these guys with all these like Strymon Blue Skies. I'm like, is that what I have to get like a gigantic sound?
No. I mean, that's one way to do it. The Strymon stuff is cool. I've never used any of the Strymon stuff. I mean, I've used some in the studio, but live I've never used any of that stuff. At least what I was doing when I was with Shane, and I don't know what Sunshine's doing. I think he's still doing this or some like iteration of this, but I was running stereo.
Okay.
So that's part of it, right? And me and our sound engineer back in the day, Matt, like we would mess with it where, you know, we would pan one amp one side and one amp either, like, you know, I mean, I think it depended on the venue, but like sometimes it would be full 100 spread. Sometimes it would be, you know, this kind of thing or this kind of thing, depending on how big the room was or whatever. You know, because if you do it too big, then there's no room for fiddle or acoustic, or it's just like a wall of sound, which is too much in, like, at least in Shane's type of music, you know, where you still need these acoustic instruments to speak and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my pedal board's sitting right here if you want to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
It's like a secret.
Let me see if I can flip it around. It's in absolute disarray right now, so I don't think I can flip it around. So we're just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it sideways here. It's in absolute disarray, but the trick is these two pedals.
I have them.
See that? Did you see that?
Yeah, Hall of Fame and what is that? DD5 or something? Digital delay.
7. Yeah.
7. Okay.
So I've got this on the analog setting. I've got the effect level pretty high, you know, probably 70% or so, whatever. And then this dude, the trick was with Shane was I was running the mod setting. So it's modulating whatever's happening and making it wiggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with Shane, I was running my slapback on all the time.
The Aqua, yeah.
And then and then depending on, like, when I was doing the swelly stuff, you know, obviously swelly stuff here.
Yeah.
But then I had these two guys on, and I was running stereo out. So I would run out of this stereo into this, out of this stereo to 2 amps, and I would have the other trick is at least in my opinion. I mean, once again, this is one of those like million ways to skin the cat type situations, but this is what was working, or at least sort of working for me. Sorry, I'm trying to get this fixed.
That's it. And
all right. The other trick is I don't really mess with drive pedals or like any sort of like I have one distortion pedal, which is it's more of a boost pedal than anything. But funnily enough, I run a Timmy. That's the pedal that I have. That's my like solo tone, right? The real thing is amp drive. So like, yeah, and in the studio it's different, but live, I always play. Well, I used to always play especially when I was with Shane. I would play an amp that had a master volume knob, so that I could crank my channel volume up as much as I needed to get my dirt. And even if we were in some tiny club in, you know, BFE Kentucky or whatever, I could still be dirty enough, because that bite is what's helping you cut through. Like when you're saying like the focusedness, like when you're super clean and ethereal, a lot of times that stuff gets pulled back, but the distortion is what's helping cut through the mix. So I don't know if that answers your questions, but that's what I was doing.
That more than answers my question. And I have those pedals like right behind me.
Cool.
I was expecting some boutique, some elaborate setup. I can't believe it's just a TC Electronic Hall of Fame.
Hey, man. It's I am in the minority on this in so many circles, but look, gear is cool, gear is great. There are certain areas where you gotta have dope shit, right? I think having dope tube amps is, like I said, amp distortion. So dope tube amps, you gotta have a good guitar, but like, I think you can get a lot done with a shitty delay pedal and a DS1,
Yeah.
Like, I think it's more about what you do than what you have, So
It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
I was expecting something because like you're the only guitar player in your band. Like,
Yeah.
I was expecting a lot of bells and whistles, and that's.
I mean, here's what I'll say is like, I think that like the secret, in my opinion, to sounding versatile as a guitar player is to have like a song, like on a song, and like obviously it depends on the song. I'm not saying like if you just do this on your songs, like this is what you should do. I think you should still only apply this where it counts or where you should apply it, but like you don't need 18 pedals on every song. You need like one pedal on like on this song, and then maybe this song you don't need any pedals on, and then maybe on this song you need a different one pedal on, and then you know what I mean, because like you're doing splashes of color rather than just like a fucking rainbow all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, instead of tap dancing.
Right. And like, and look, I say all that with a grain of salt. Like that is not necessarily the approach that everyone should take. I'm just saying that's the approach that I have taken and has worked. I mean, I'll also say this: when I played for Shane, there was more tap dancing going on than what I'm doing now, and some of that's because I was doing like loops. Like I would build these swell loops, and then I would bring them in. Like basically, let's say we had a song in D, and then 4 songs later we would have another song in D. Well, I would build these like with the effect level on the delay pedal all the way off. So basically in silence, I would build these loops of just noise in D, and then like when we were about to go into the next song in the key of D, I would bend down and I would bring that volume. I would like hit a chord where that's the other thing is I was running through the effects loop to where my actual loop, this is going to get weird and confusing, so I'm sorry. My actual loop pedal wasn't coming through all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I could still play on top of my loops. So I would hit a big chord on the last chord of whatever song we were on, and then I would bend down holding that chord and bring in the loop to transition into the next song. So like there was that kind of tap dancing going on with Shane. I don't do that nearly as much anymore with my stuff. I probably should though. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. 2 can sound like the guitar player for Shane Smith and the Saints.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. Because Sunshine uses an Empress. And I was thinking about getting one, and I was like, let me see what the OG uses. And I didn't expect you actually to have it right next to you, but that's so I now have no excuse.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's well. The other thing I should add too is you're gonna want to put those pedals at the end of your chain, right? Because then whatever you're playing is getting delayed and verbed, rather like, especially like even if you turn on a distortion pedal, you're not distorting those effects. You're reverbing and delaying your distortion, right? So, but if you put it at the end of the chain, when you swell, the tails will go and you can pull off I'm sure you know all this because you're a guitar player, but for other people who are guitar players who want to know this, that's why I'm saying that. Put it at the end of the chain. That way you can swell, and the tails will go while you switch to the next chord. But yeah, man, it's nothing fancy. I mean, I will say this: when I play with Shane, I did have one boutique pedal that I would use every once in a while to get the like real shimmer reverb thing, which was the Matthews Astronomer or Cosmonaut or whatever it was. But I only used that on like one or two songs. So there's other shimmer reverbs you can get if you that are also not the Strymon stuff. There are other reverbs that are cheaper, more working man reverb pedals. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you'd have something crazy because, yeah, has anybody ever walked into the studio and be like, I want to sound like you?
Well, yeah, there's plenty of people who will say like, can you put like the Tim swelly thing on this? Like my buddy Brad, who mixes all the stuff that I produce pretty much, and who I will do session work for him sometimes. He will sometimes say, well, also he worked on the Geronimo album. He engineered and helped us produce that album. So like he was there when we were messing with a good amount of that stuff. But he'll say that like, do the Shane swelly thing or do the Tim swelly thing. I hear that a lot for sure.
That's cool.
I try not to pull it out too much because I don't want to overdo it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was also as crazy as like having like that style and then hear like Tim Lightyear, it's totally different. It's like you're like a multi-style guitar player. Is it something like you try to like avoid not to sound like that part of your career, and this is just where you always wanted to be, or you know what I mean? Because like, was anybody like when you did start the Tim Lightyear and they heard it and they're like, wow, this is different. Is that because I obviously it's still good. It's just you didn't have any like backlash from people being like, well, that's not Tim Lightyear. You know what I mean? Because people get so used to you being in one situation.
Sure. I mean, I didn't make any conscious effort to sound like one thing or another. I think I just sound how I sound.
Yeah.
I think that I wrote songs that are true to the thing that I'm trying to say. I think that it's more so the other way, and I don't say this in any like bad way, but I think that when I played for Shane, like I was trying to elevate what he was doing, like I was trying to be a part of that soup, if you will.
Yeah.
In the same way that when an artist comes in and wants to make a record, I'm not going to try and make their songs sound, I'll put it this way, I'm going to try my best not to imprint myself on their stuff as much as I can and try and do what serves what their art is trying to say, right?
Yeah.
So the best way the simplest way that I can say it is I think that my solo project is my art in its truest form. And I think that when I'm playing with Shane or playing with anyone else or producing a record, I'm trying my best to elevate what their art is trying to say. So, I mean, and to the other thing that you're saying, like, I don't know if there's backlash as much as I think that there is a large amount of people who are like, I thought you were with Shane. What happened? Or, aren't you the guy that used to play for Shane? Or what? Like they know me as that thing, which is fine. I don't have any issue with that. You know what I mean? Because hey, that means they know who I am. That's cool. But I don't think I got backlash because I'm making my art. I think there are probably people. I mean, there are definitely people who have come to me and said like, "Man, I miss you being on the road with Shane."
Yeah.
But I think that that's just inevitable. You know what I mean? There's just going to be some people that get attached to a thing and they want it that way. Just like I don't think that Michael McDonald should be in the Doobie Brothers. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think I like the Doobie Brothers. I don't like Michael McDonald with the Doobie Brothers. So I don't know. Backlash is not the word I would use, but I get
Okay.
why you're asking. I get why you're asking the question though.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of people get some. It blows my mind. Like when you love a band, like you can love the members individually. Like you've never heard side projects. Like I always bring up, like people cannot get over that Cody Canada and Cross Canadian Ragweed does not exist, and it never will. But he's still out doing his thing. You can still go listen to his songs and listen to
Right.
him. Like he was the voice, he was the guitar player. I'm like,
Right.
if he couldn't make a show, he still wouldn't be the show, and it just
Right.
blows my mind. And I was just wondering if you experienced any of that.
No, I mean, here's what I'll also say is like, I think that I was with Shane up until pretty much right before he like really popped off,
Yeah,
right? So I think that probably the majority of Shane's fans don't even know, like you were saying, like you didn't even know I was in the band, and you're pretty well versed on the Texas music scene at this point, and you didn't even know that
yeah,
he had a different guitar player. And also, like Shane's had, I counted it. My buddy was like, "Hey, who was the original drummer?" Or they said, "Who was the old drummer from the Saints?" And I was like, "Well, which one?" Because Shane's had like 6 or 7 drummers at this point,
oh wow,
And I'm only the second guitar player, but he's had 4 bass players or so at this point. I was originally the bass player when I joined the Saints. I was the bass player because he still had his guitar player, and then when his guitar player left is whenever I switched to guitar. So like there's been a bunch of people that have come through the band, but I think that most people that are Shane fans, not like the diehards, not the OGs, if you will, like
yeah,
they know the lineup history, but like most people don't even know that I was in the band. You know what I mean?
that's crazy.
So yeah,
But it's like when I found out American Aquarium has like a very long roster of
yeah,
members as well.
yeah. I think it's just a thing, dude. Like
Yeah,
being on the road is hard, and I mean, it's just like drive-by truckers. Like Jason Isbell was in drive-by truckers, and it's
yeah,
like they're still doing their thing. He's doing his thing. I'm not comparing myself to Jason Isbell or his successor or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like, I think just people are trying to do their thing, and sometimes people want to go do their own shit. I don't know.
yeah.
Like
There,
Sting and the Police.
yeah, that's very true. There's a cool part in that documentary about you, which people should watch. It's less than 30 minutes, and it gets a good look at you guys. And you guys were sitting down, and they were like, "What are you talking about?" And it was kind of like a conversation of, "We know we're gonna fight soon."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we've had no sleep.
Yep.
It's just inevitable. And I thought that was great that you're experienced enough to know, like, we need to sit down, like something's gonna pop off here. It's not you,
Yeah.
it's not me, it's just
Well, dude, I mean, I cannot tell you the amount of fights, and they're not even really fights because it's not like anyone like did something to someone. It's just like we're in this situation, and you're pissing me off, and it's not even you're pissing me off. It's I'm pissed off about the situation, and you're here. And granted, I think I was a lot younger when that thing would happen more often, but and that's one of the reasons that I'm super particular. Like I don't the run we did to Stagecoach. I try to avoid those types of runs at all costs because I want the road to be as enjoyable as possible. Like obviously, there's only so much you can do sometimes, but like we probably got over a 4-day span, like maybe 20 hours of sleep, and it's like that's just not sustainable.
yeah.
So it's like and I also try and keep a super open dialogue with my guys where it's like, hey, this is going to suck. So if you feel like it sucks, like come talk to me and I'll try and help you feel like it sucks as much as I can, you know,
Yeah.
or feel like, I'll help you with the suck as much as I can,
Yeah.
you know?
So, what if you could pick any shows like Tim Lightyear could play, like festivals? Do you have like what you'd really, really want to strive for, or is it like just come as they may, or you just really have
I mean,
a roadmap?
no, I mean, I don't really think about it in terms of like specific shows that I would like to play. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of festivals that I would love to be on. Red Ants Pants Dance in, I think it's like Montana or somewhere up
I
there.
like
Like that one I would love to be on. I mean, Bonnaroo, ACL, Lollapalooza, Coachella. Like those are all obvious.
yeah,
But man, I think for me more than anything, like I have my sights set on if I could tour and put like 500 to 1,000 people in a room every night, I could make a decent living and give my guys a decent living to where that's all we had to do. And that's really what I'm after. Like if somebody came up to me tomorrow and they were like, "Hey, you're going to be as famous as Post Malone." I'd be like, "Okay, like that's probably going to take some work for me to be able to handle that mentally and emotionally and all that kind of stuff, but like I just want to play to decent crowds everywhere
yeah,
because then I know I can make a decent living, you know what I mean?"
yeah. I
So,
A lot of people like they would be like how do you play in front of like a big audience? Don't you get nervous? I'm like, dude, the more the better.
yeah.
Just the energy,
Yep.
and then there's like, odds are there's more people that don't like you, but get your own band, buddy.
Well, yeah, and
You
dude,
know?
and here's the thing, dude, is there are going to be people that don't like you
Yeah,
no matter what. You know what I mean? It's unavoidable. There's someone that doesn't like everyone. Like I don't mean like that person doesn't like everyone. I just mean like for everyone there is someone that doesn't like them. And so it's just like what's the point in caring about that, you know?
yeah,
If you got enough people that know about you to have haters, you're doing something right, you
yeah.
know?
That's
That means you have a lot of people who do like what you're doing enough so that somebody that doesn't like what you're doing knows about you. So,
yeah.
I don't know. That's
That's
how
a
I
good
see it.
Yeah, that's true. Now, is there a song like do you have like an emotional song, like your most emotional song?
Of mine,
Yeah,
yeah, I have two. Uh, Falling Again is a song that I kind of started writing when my mother-in-law passed away, and it's kind of a song that I wrote to my wife as like the thing that I struggled with when my mother-in-law passed away was like I really wanted to be there for my wife, and I had a hard time figuring out how to do that because like there's nothing you can really do. But I also was grieving in my own way, right, for my mother-in-law and for my whole family. And I just struggled to process that whole situation. And what I do when I don't know how to process the situation is I write a song about it. So I wrote that song, and it's kind of about that. And then the other song that I wrote that I think is emotional, uh, it's a very different kind of emotion, but it's a song called "Joke," and it's kind of my uh, imposter syndrome song, right? Like earlier, I was talking about how like I was the side guy for a long time, and I kind of lost my way as a front man. Um, and "Joke" is me killing the imposter,
hmm.
you know? Like every night when I play, that's what I say on stage. Like every night when I play that song, I kind of, you know, it's like imagine the imposter is like kind of being reborn after every time. Like as soon as I finish playing that song, he's like starting his rebirth process inside me, and he's trying to convince me that can't do what I'm trying to do every time. And then every time I play the song, I'm kind of killing him again, you know. And hopefully one day I won't have to kill him. Not meaning I won't play the song, but one day the imposter syndrome will be gone, hopefully.
Yeah.
But that's what that song is for, or it's what it's about.
Yeah. Now, the one about your mother-in-law, is that one you would play live?
Uh, I want to start playing it live more. It's hard to play because it's hard to sing. It's like it's high, it's long notes, it's
Okay.
hard to sing. So there's that component of it. But the real challenge is that it's hard for me to get through.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to
Now,
sing the song.
if that was on your set list, would you have to like read the crowd before you did it because it's such a emotional
Yeah,
song for you?
yeah, and I mean, I think in general, slow songs. Not that that song's particularly slow. I'll say like mid tempo to soft songs. You kind of have to know. Um, it's what I call the spell, right? So when you're playing a show and you're just crushing, and the crowd like they're cheering after every song. Most people haven't left to go back to the bar to get a drink or to go out to smoke or whatever. Like I call that having the crowd under the spell, right? And then as soon as you have like too much dead space in between songs, or you tell a joke and it's not that funny, or somebody in the band hits the wrong note, or you sing a bad note, or whatever, you people fall out from under the spell, and it's really hard to get them back, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the secret is you have to play those kinds of songs when you still have them under the spell, which is tough because usually, you know, the further you go into the set, the more likely it is that something's going to happen and it could be out of your control too. Like some people could fight, or some girl could, not girl, any person could throw up, or somebody gets kicked out, or any number of things could happen that's going to distract the crowd, right? So the farther you get into the set, the more likely it is that something like that's going to happen, and so you kind of have to be smart about it. But
Yeah.
yes, short answer, yeah, you got to read the crowd.
Yeah. It's funny is you say like that the spell because that's one of the reasons I hated playing with smokers. I'm like, dude, we got these people. When there's no breaks. Like
Yeah,
we are
yeah,
captains of the ship. Like, what do
yeah,
you mean? Like,
yeah,
oh, you broke a string. Get the other guitar. Tune it.
yep,
It's
yeah,
but like you definitely probably see it more than anybody else in the band because you're singing it and you're looking at the faces, and I always found myself kind of like staring at my fingers a lot bit more. But when you really look out, like especially if there's a DJ there, oh my God, and they start playing all the songs everybody knows how to dance to, it's like, well, we're done.
yeah,
Yeah, we just became elevator music.
yeah, yeah, man. It's tough, man. Like people want to hear stuff they know, because
Yeah.
they're out in public. They're not, unless they're, real music fans, which there are a lot of people that are really genuinely out there trying to discover new music and support bands that they haven't heard. Those people exist, but I think there are less of them than the opposite. But yeah, it's tough to win people over. You really gotta do something impressive or something unique or whatever if you want to keep people's attention, and if you want to sell a shirt to them or make them a fan. You got to do something worthwhile.
Now, do you have a song? Because I know you can shred on that guitar. You're a very good guitar player.
Thank you.
Now, is there a song that you're like, we're playing this, where you can just absolutely just destroy and really like get the eyes looking on you and be like, yeah, these guys are doing something.
Um, I have a song called Angel, and it's like probably the closest thing I have to like a blues song. Um, which I mean, for my band, like we have sort of a bluesy thing going on, but like that's the most bluesy song, and I think that like it's one of the ways we start the set a lot is like my band will just kick in because it's just like a simple groove, and eighth notes on the bass guitar, and then I can just go, I can just start, and, obviously start small and, develop the solo or whatever, develop your lead parts or whatever. But like, that's probably the one that if I can tell the crowd is going to be tough, like if there's a football game on, or they're pretty drunk already, or whatever, if I can tell that it's that kind of crowd, like we'll typically start with that one. So it's like, all right, cool. Like we're going to show you guys that we can do impressive things first,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the hard part, is because I want to impress them not only with the guitar and the orchestration, but with the words. But that's just hard.
Yeah.
It's harder.
The more you think about it, it's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
And especially because it's your name on that marquee on the shirt. They're not going to, like, if the bass player does something, they're probably not going to know his name. They're going to say Tim Lightyear, and
yeah, they're going to say that guy sucks. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which, hey, dude, it's like I said earlier. If you got people saying that, though, I hope. I mean, it's that whole thing that I think it was Elvis's manager did, where he was selling like pins or patches or whatever that said like Elvis sucks, or like don't listen to Elvis, or whatever it was, and it's like haters are gonna buy that, dude. And
Yeah.
people, that's the thing, is it's a win-win, because the fans will buy it because they think it's cool or funny, and then the haters will buy it because they believe it.
Yeah.
And then it's a win-win,
Yeah, it's like Primus, their whole crowd chants Primus sucks at their concert.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
Haters gonna hate.
Yeah. Now, is there any artists that you would love to record with that you haven't yet, or even
Like that I could produce?
I guess how about both?
like play guitar with, or like, what do you mean?
If the phone rang for someone to record at your recording studio, who would you just like the guy that sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow? The guy called up. It was like 4 a.m. And he was like, "Come."
Yeah.
Do you have a guy that have called you like that? You'd be like,
yeah,
roll out of bed and go right to the studio.
Great question. I mean, there's a long list. There's a really long list. Man, I mean, there's this folky guy that I really like. His name's Gregory Alan Isaacoff. I think his songs are really, really good. There's this guy in Oklahoma. His name is Jason Scott. I just recently started really listening to his catalog, and his stuff is just kick-ass.
Jason Scott in the High Heat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy is... I have a show coming up with him, and so I was just diving into his catalog, and I was like, man, like, he takes risks, he writes cool shit, he's not afraid to, like, say something, his tones are cool, his voice is great. I was like, this guy's rad, I would love to record this guy. But man, I mean, shit, there's a lot of people. There's this guy, Leaf, I'm going to say his name wrong.
Shively?
Leif Vollebeck, or Leif Vollebeck. I don't know. He's from like Canada. He's like this singer-songwriter guy. He plays piano and guitar. He's really rad. I mean, shit, dude. If John Moreland called me, I would shit myself, Like, and it's so funny, dude, because he was doing his birthday at the Merc in Tulsa the night that we were playing. And we just had such an off night as a band, and I was just like, man, like we were playing at his, like, it wasn't supposed to be his birthday party, but he was like, they were like, he had his table reserved and had like a cake and shit, and I'm just like, man, like we didn't murder, like when he's in the crowd, you want to murder, but it is what it is. But yeah, if John Moreland called, I would fucking definitely shit myself for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, is there any bands you've heard where like you just ever have times where you just listen to a song and you're like, man, I wish they would have came to me, because you hear a great song that's just lacking, that would put it just over the top of where it should have been recorded, because a lot of people have good content that you can kind of hear. Like sometimes they don't use like a compression bus and everything's kind of like lopsided
All over the place and
yeah
weird. Yeah.
and for
Right.
like that bothers me, and it just
Yeah.
really drives me away from the lyrics sometimes. But like the content, it is, now that you're doing, you're a musician and producer, do you find like sometimes listening to music, does it take away some of that passion, knowing that like you're like, oh, if they only would have done this, and like you're
It's
like
tough.
like a professor grading a paper where you love the student, but you're like, come on, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, there are definitely some scenarios where I feel that way. I'm not going to say any
Yeah.
band names, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I feel that way because I'm like, man, like I want this so badly for you. I want you to see whatever success that you deserve and that I know that you're capable of. And it's not that I'm any better than anyone else. It's just that I'm different than someone else in production style.
Yeah.
And it's just like I said earlier, like if somebody hit me up to do a 90s country record, like I would do it, but I would have to call in a bunch of help, you know? And so
Yeah.
like I think it's the same thing where like if somebody went to a studio that mostly does commercials, or they record, I don't know, gospel music, and they were trying to do a country record there or an Americana record there, like it's the same kind of thing, you know what I mean? So I don't know, I won't say that it doesn't often take away, unless it's someone that I know and care about, and then it does.
Yeah.
But I try really hard to just be a fan of music as much as possible, which is tough when you're trying not to be critical of it. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think I don't know. I think it all comes around, though. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense, but like I think that when I hear somebody who did something somewhere that they shouldn't have done it there, typically the next time around, they also realize that they shouldn't go back to that place again. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and here's what I'll say is there are clients of mine that I've had that have not come back to me, and I think that they were better for it. You know what I mean? So like the thing applies to me too. It applies to everyone. I just think
Yeah.
it depends on the artist and it depends on the project.
Yeah. Now, I was just wondering, is somebody today, I was really thinking about, like, before you wanted to become a musician, and then when you hear that note, you hear that song, and you find something you love that you want to strive to, like, play an instrument to just, at first, you want to play that. Do you think at that point, you kind of, like, pigeonhole yourself to music? Because a lot of people are wondering, like, how have you never heard this? How have you never done this? And I'm like, man, I was trying to think, like, maybe as a musician, finding something I love really brought, like, my focus down on something so hard that maybe I did kind of, like black out some genres.
Like put blinders on.
Yeah, unintentionally, but like, as a guitar player, when you're just starting to play guitar, you're listening to that. But for me, it was like Poison and Eddie. Like I'm listening to that song probably thousands of times and spending so much time trying to like get good enough to play like the top players and everything. Because I was really wondering, like, when people are like, have you never heard Steely Dan? Have you never Ace or Dr. Hook? I was like, I heard of the band Steely Dan. Don't know if I heard their music, but Ace and Dr. Hook I never heard of. Plus, I'm not from the 70s. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm like, like radio didn't play what I wanted to play on my instruments. I'm like, maybe I did. Like, do you think that is like a thing?
I don't know. I wouldn't say you pigeonhole yourself. I mean, I think with country music specifically, I feel like a lot of people who didn't grow up listening to country music, it takes more time for them to just be naturally exposed to it.
Yeah.
I think so, unless you grew up in a household that listened to country music, especially for guitar players, because I mean, I don't know. This is probably going to be a controversial take, but like I feel like a lot of times a a kid who wants to learn guitar, like they want to be Slash,
Yeah.
not Brad Paisley. You know, like I don't know. Like I feel like as a guitar player, you're gonna lean towards rock and roll guitar players, at least for me and you. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the right subset of people to look at for the question, but I don't know. I also just think there's a literal shit ton of music out there, dude. Like
Yeah.
you could spend every waking moment for the rest of your life trying to listen to all the music, and you wouldn't scratch the surface of it. You know? So like, I don't know, man. Like, I just I think there's just a lot of shit out there, you know. So
Yeah.
and if someone, I mean, you said Ace and Doctor Hook, but like the whole country versus metal thing, like for you specifically, like you, it sounds like, at least from what I understand, like you didn't get exposed to country music until fairly recently. Like I didn't listen to country music very much until I was like in Shane's band. You know, like I liked Reckless Kelly. I knew about Reckless Kelly. I knew about like Texas red dirt country, but I didn't know much about like old school outlaw country or like that much about 90s country. Like I had never heard of Keith Whitley or, you know, I don't know. I don't even know what another good example is, but like I feel like if you're a kid and you start learning guitar, unless you start learning country guitar, you don't really dip your toes, at least for me. I didn't really dip my toes into country music until much later,
Yeah.
you know? So I don't know.
That makes sense.
I don't know, man. Don't beat yourself up about it, man, dude.
Yeah.
It's cool, dude. You got plenty of time to hear other music, you know? You're
Yeah.
good.
Plenty
You're
of
good,
time
dude.
to hear more Tim Lightyear.
Yeah, there you go.
So I wanted to ask about the album art. It's
Oh,
like
cool.
Army Men and what do they call, like rocket pops?
Yeah,
Or
it's a bomb pop.
yeah.
Cool thing about it, dude, is it's a real bomb pop, and they're like little alien army men, is what they are. Um, but yeah, man. So on the cover is actually like part of there's like the message of joke is hidden in the cover because there's the guy, the main dude is standing there next to the popsicle and he has like the ray gun or whatever, and then his friends are behind him or his buddies or whatever, and then it's the same identical figure is laying there, and he's shot him. So that's the imposter. He's killed the imposter who's laying there, right? And it's so the whole thing, dude, is like basically I made this record with all my old friends. So like my brother Daniel played drums on probably like 70% of the songs. My childhood like one of my childhood best friends, who is still my drummer, who I've played it with like in bands since I was like 13. He is in my band now. He played drums on several songs. My bass player I've known since I was like 13 or 14. Drew, who produced the record and plays on all the songs and sings on all the songs. I've known him since I was like 13 or 14. And so, yeah, I got together with all my old friends and made a record about kind of what it means to try and find yourself as, you know, and to be a man and figure out how to be a husband and be a father and be a good person and do the right thing, pretty much.
Now,
So
did you align the tracks as a story, or
no, not really. No, it's not like a concept album. Like
yeah,
I'm just saying like that's what I wrote this. that's the phase I was at in my life when I was writing those songs. Is like, because I had left the Saints. A lot of my identity was tied to being in the Saints. It's like you said, there's people who are like, you're the guy from the Saints.
Yeah.
So a lot of my identity was tied to that, and I was trying to figure out like, who the fuck am I without this? And that's a lot of what I was working on when I was writing these songs. Is self discovery, but also you know self discovery with a really good backbone of people that had my back. Drew had my back. He believed in me. He took a risk on working with me, and my band believes in me, and my wife believes in me, and my family believes in me, and a bunch of my friends believe in me. Um, so yeah, it's not really a concept album in any sense other than that's where I was at.
So it's an album that's like a therapy session for yourself.
In a lot of ways, man. Yeah, I mean, not all the songs, obviously, but like, I don't know, man. Like I said earlier about the falling again thing, like I didn't know how to process that, so I wrote a song about it, and that's kind of how I handle a lot of stuff. But I also try and, as much as possible, make it relatable for someone else to where if they're going through something, whether it's the same thing or something similar, like hopefully they can take something away from it too.
Yeah. Have you ever had anybody come up to you and tell you that songs like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, man. It's funny. Caleb Michael?
And the Arrested?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Caleb is one of my good friends, man. He's one of the sweetest dudes in the world, and I love him and his family, and they're just the salt of the earth. They're just awesome people. He loves my song Joke. He was at my release show, and I hope that I'm not embarrassing him by telling this story. I'm saying this because I love him, and this shows the kind of dude that he is. But he was at my show, at my album release show. He was front and center, and I played Joke. I always play Joke last because it's like, I don't know. So at some point, you'll have to come to a show and you'll see what I mean. But I always played it last, and he was standing front and center, and he was singing every word, and he was just crying, dude. He's just crying his eyes out to that song. So a lot of my musician friends, that's the one that they relate to the most because it's about, you know, feeling like a joke when you're in your 30s still trying to be in a band,
Yeah.
which a lot of my friends are. We're still out here fucking trying to do it, and your other friends are, you know, buying a big house in some gated neighborhood, with a window business or a roofing business, or they're a realtor, or they're a fat cat bigwig executive dude, or whatever it is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you're like, yeah, man, I drove back through the other night from Lubbock, and there was like 18 people at the show.
Yeah.
Very different worlds.
Yeah, I know. And it's like a lot of these artists I do, like I'm friends with them on Facebook, and it like crushes me when I see like they get day jobs. I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
man.
because that
I
takes
know.
away. And it's like I love this. It's hard to be so far away from Texas because like I would love to go out and film every show and like get my content that way. That way you don't have to see me all the time because nobody wants to see me. But when they
That's
like
not true, bro. That's not true.
when they get day jobs, I'm like, oh no, they're so much better than all this stuff. Like I don't want to say like the stuff I saw in the CMAs, but come on, you know what I
No,
mean? Like,
I feel you, man. I totally feel you. That's the bummer about this industry, man. Is like some of the most talented people, like they have to hang it up at some
yeah,
point, or at least they feel like they do. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I'm doing the studio thing, man, is because then I have a day job that's still related to music, and I can keep my world revolved around it, and I can, the studio and the solo project thing, they kind of feed off each other. Like I go out and I play shows and I meet bands, and I say I got a studio, and then they come back and they record, and then we play shows together, and then I'll sing on their songs or I'll play on their songs, and then whenever I make my next record, I'll have this arsenal of people that I can call if I need somebody to play on something, whatever, you know. So there's a symbiotic relationship between the two, and I'm very lucky that I got in on this side of things when I did, because had I not, I'd probably be and not to hate on any of it, but I'd probably have some day, you know, driving a truck or whatever it is. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that's where I would be if I didn't have the studio side of stuff.
Yeah. Keeping your sanity.
Yeah, just, you know, really it's keeping my wife, because, you know,
Yeah.
you got to pay the bills,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. You gotta pay the bills, and keep the kids healthy,
Yeah, keep
fed.
them fed. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
and keep the lights on, you know?
Yeah.
So,
It's a risky business, and
yeah.
so hopefully the studio provides a steady check when it's all
Yeah, man,
100%.
it's working out all right. You know, we're not keeping up with the Joneses, but we're doing just fine, you know? I can eat beans, you know, most meals, and I'm happy with that, you know. I don't need a bunch of fancy shit. I just need, you know, I need good time with my people.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm after, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
great. If I got rich, cool, I guess, but I don't know, man. I'm content here,
Yeah. That's
you
a good
know.
place to be.
Yeah,
It it takes a while to get there.
it does. And when you're on your way, dude, you think it's never gonna happen. And there are still times where I'm like, do we really have this figured out? There are still times where I feel that way. And on the way to this point, there were more times than I can count, thoughts of hanging it up for sure. You know, like discussions with my wife being like, should we just should I just get a day job so I get them sweet bennies? You know what I mean? So I get some sweet bennies. You know?
That's the one that's why I didn't take the leap. I was like, soon as I, quit my job and lose all my benefits, I was like, my appendix is going to burst.
Yeah,
Something.
exactly, dude. I'm
You
lucky
can't even
that
stub a toe.
dude, right. I'm lucky that she has a good job and that she provides good bennies for our family, because, dude, can you imagine? Like, I mean, I can't imagine, but like the healthcare bill of having a child, let alone two, is preposterous, dude. It's highway robbery, bro,
Oh, gee.
and so like I don't know, man. I don't know how people do it without bennies, and even with bennies, it's still that component of it is still super difficult. So I don't know, man. Like I said, we're doing all right. We got beans in the pantry, so we're doing okay.
There you go. So I guess we're coming up on an hour and 15, and I don't want to hold you
Yeah,
too long. But is there anything you want to go over, like we might have missed, or anything you want to promote?
man. If somebody needs somewhere to record and they like good vibes and good people and good food and good productions and good mixes and all that, we got a dope studio here. It's called Cosmic Mama Studios. The vibes are high because we can go into strobe land, you know. So, you know, we can do we if you need a record, come check it out. I'm working on getting all the social media and stuff and the website figured out, but uh, you know, if you don't see Cosmic Mama Studios, follow Tim Lightyear. I got a record out. I got merch for sale. I got I got beans to buy. So if you want to buy something from me, you put beans in the pantry, baby. But yeah, man. Other than that, like, follow my people, man. Follow Drew. Follow Brad. Brad's Pro Mix engineer. Follow my friends. You know, follow Evan Boyer. Follow Caleb Michael. Follow all my homies. You know, spread the love. If you see something, the last thing I'll say is, if you see something on social media actually take the time to go to that person's shit and like it and follow it, because that makes a difference. So that's the only thing I'll
Yeah,
say.
it
And I don't even
does.
I'm not even saying for myself. I'm just saying for anything you see. Like if you're like, oh wow, that's cool. It only takes like another 13 seconds to go, oh wow, that's cool. Click, follow. That's it. You know,
Yeah,
that's
and
all I'm gonna say.
yeah, and TikTok makes it really easy to add to a playlist.
Right?
Not a lot of artists utilize that, but I should make
Yeah,
a video on how to
yeah.
utilize that.
That would be dope.
Yeah,
Also, I just want to say this. The platform that you guys have created is fucking awesome, dude. It's really cool. I really appreciate you having me on. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to my stuff. And I know that time and effort goes into this, so I really appreciate that. I think that you guys are all, this whole thing you guys are doing is really, really cool. And I really appreciate it. And I know a bunch of other artists that really, really appreciate it. And like Caleb was the one who, he goes, dude, have you seen this? And he sent me your TikTok. And I was like, yeah, dude. And he was like, this is so sick, dude. And I'm like, it's cool, man. Like, it's like when you did Della Rose, like, I've been hoping at some point that one of the artists that I work with or my shit or whatever would get on there, you know? And so like when I saw that, I was just like, that's cool, man. Like that feels like, it feels like we're doing something if the stuff that we're making is getting to your ears. So I think that's awesome, man. I really appreciate it.
yeah, dude, I love it, and yeah, thank you. Like that's funny. Like I'm like I have to do Caleb's new one because he has hit me up.
Yeah.
I'm like I will, and then it's just I was on vacation last week, so I was just like,
Well, dude, you probably have a list like 1,000 songs long that
yeah,
you have to get to, bro. Like I'm sure it's not easy to
yeah,
handle it all, you know?
yeah. What's I lost the list once. I don't know what happened, but yeah, and
Well, dude,
it's always evolving.
if you ever, I know you got a team and you got all this kind of stuff, but if you ever are like, hey, dude, I'm really looking for some more stuff, or like, I want to hear more of your artist or whatever, holler at me, dude, because I know people, I got people, I got
I'm
homies, you know?
I'm always looking for new homies.
Okay,
I love a new name,
cool.
especially if it can
The
help.
Yeah, well, dude, the last one I'll say is one of my dearest friends, which is Mr. Tom Sless. If you haven't listened to Tom shit, dude, you of all people, because you come from a rock and roll background, dude, you would fucking dig Tom.
What's his
His
last
shit,
name?
Tom Sless, Sless. He's got a big
Okay.
afro. You can't miss him. Uh, his shit is like this cosmic David Bowie meets fucking like Kansas meets Queen meets, I don't know, man. It's just he is like Michael Jackson, Freddie Mercury, and David Bowie all in one, but he's in Texas and he's badass.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very interested now.
Yeah, dude. I did his album at my old spot, and it's one of I all of my projects are my babies, but it's one of the things that I am most proud of is some of Tom's songs, because they're just so, he did such a good job, and it was awesome. So check him out for sure.
Oh, I definitely will.
Cool.
But yeah, man, thank you for coming on here.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. It means a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Yep. Once again, thanks. And
Yeah.
you have a good night, man.
You too, brother.